Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm sorry it's been a while since I posted my last video, but I've got a whole new range of topics to cover and I hope you're going to find them interesting and informative. No prizes for guessing what today's topic is, but I received an email a few weeks ago from a guest who said, "John, last time I saw you, you suggested I upgraded my tripod. What should I buy?" It's kind of like asking me, "John, I'd like a new car, what would you recommend? Would it be an Aston Martin or would it be a Range Rover?" Depends on your circumstances, depends on what you're going to do with it. Tripods are the same. It depends on what you're going to put on there. It depends on what material you want. It depends how many leg sections you need. It depends on all sorts of factors. So rather than make any specific recommendations, what I want to do today is to look through the various types of tripod available. I'm not talking about manufacturers' makes, but the different types of tripods available, the different options to enable you to make your own decisions as to what tripod you need. Is bigger better? I often ask people, put these two up and I say, which is the best tripod? And so many say, oh, it's got to be this one. True, this is bigger, it's got larger leg sections, it's far stronger, it would hold me up. You could put 30-40 kilos of camera on there and it would be rock solid. This will hold an SLR with a medium lens. But if I was travelling around the world with a suitcase, I wouldn't take that with me. I'd take this with me. This has been to China with me, this has been all the way around the world with me many years ago. The only tripod that's of any use to anyone is the one that you take with you, not the one you leave in the car because it's too heavy to carry. A number of photographers I see struggling to handhold photos, and I'm working on a tripod and they say, "Oh, I wish I brought my tripod." "Oh, where is it?" "Oh, I left it in the car, it's too heavy." The only good a tripod like that is emptying your wallet. It won't make your photos any more stable unless you use it, so you've got to be willing to carry it. Bear that in mind. Buy the one that's appropriate to you. Okay, the next thing to consider is what they're made of. Nowadays we've got a choice of two: aluminium or carbon fibre. What are the pros and cons? Let's start with aluminium. They are a little heavier than their carbon fibre equivalents. Aluminium is more prone to vibration, although I've never seen anybody try to vibrate a tripod when they're taking a photo, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. They are colder to the touch in winter. Again, not a big problem, wear gloves. But they're less expensive. So two main points: heavier and cheaper. Carbon fibre, pretty straightforward, lighter but more expensive. Very torsionally stable, they don't vibrate at all. I think size for size they will carry a lot more weight than their aluminium equivalents, and they're just that lovely lightweight tripod that you know is going to do the job well. I personally use carbon fibre tripods despite the cost. Remember, if you buy the wrong one, you just got to buy the right one afterwards. So you buy cheap, you buy twice. But I'm always willing to carry this in the field. It weighs nothing. It's about, I don't know, kilo, if that. Weighs almost nothing and it's brilliant. In terms of height, well, we'll come on to height in the next section. Okay, the next thing, how high do they go? Now, I'm pretty short. I'm only 5'7", 5'8", so most tripods go up to eye level with me. Remember, it's kind of useful, at least, if your tripod will go up to your eye level, because then you're not stooping to use it all the time. That said, this diminutive little thing behind me looks like a joke, but it's fabulous in cities. You can balance it on, you can press it against walls, you can balance it on top of walls like this. you can take it into places that a tripod like this would just get in the way, and you can still get good stable shots. What if the tripod goes taller than you? Is that useless? No, of course it isn't. Nowadays an awful lot of cameras have rear screens that tilt, so you can always see from below the camera in order to get a good high viewpoint. But if you're set up on a slope and the camera is, or the tripod is set up below you, if the tripod is taller than you, you can still see through it at eye level. So bear that in mind. Okay, so the next question you have to ask yourself is, how many leg sections do you have in the tripod? These three, as you can see, they're all fully extended legs, all the centre columns are down, and they're all approximately the same height. This one has 3 leg sections, this one has 4 leg sections, this one has 5 leg sections. What are the advantages and disadvantages of more or less sections? Well, in theory, let's move these two out of the way a minute. In theory, the fewer the leg sections, the more stable the tripod. It's true enough. This is a very, very stable tripod. However, if we collapse it, it's still this long. Again, if you're travelling, fitting that in your suitcase to go in your check-in luggage needs quite a big suitcase. If we take the next one, or the other, you will see the difference in length. That's a good 4 or 5 inches shorter. That means it might fit in a suitcase. I can always carry this with me. Going to the 5 section, it's shorter still. There is a trade-off, of course there is. There is a compromise, of course there is. Always look at the bottom leg section, and if it's too flimsy, it's not going to hold a big camera. If you're travelling around with a Micro Four Thirds or something like that, that's really lightweight, something like this is all you need. It will do the job. It might not do the job in a high wind, but it will work. If you're shooting a full-size, digital, full-format digital SLR, maybe with a long lens, you might need something this big, or you might need a reasonable compromise. Look at the overall size, look at the bottom leg section, and decide which is right for you. Okay, so the next question, how low do they go? And a tripod's ability to go really low down can be very, very useful, especially if you're doing nature work or anything like that, or landscapes. Getting low and getting a good foreground can be a fantastic advantage. And surprisingly, the 2 smallest tripods here don't have any facility to go any lower than this, whereas the 2 biggest, they'll go right down to this height, and that's with a head on. The tripod itself is only that high, so consider that. Many tripods have centre columns that can be removed, and the head still fixed to the top plate, so they can get their legs spread like this and get really, really low. Always look at that, make sure that if you want a tripod to be able to go down to these sort of levels, it's capable of doing so. So the next thing we have to consider is how we want the leg locking mechanism to work. Essentially, there are 2 types. The lever locks, which just simply work, you open the lever, put the leg where you want it, and lock it up. Advantages, quick to use, quite easy. Disadvantages, I've caught my fingers in these on numerous occasions and it does smart. The only issue is if they're not, when they start to work loose, if you're in the field and it won't do up, unless you've got a spanner with you, you've got to wait till you get home till you can do them up tight. and they do wear out with age. The other type is the twist lock. Now some people get confused with these as to which way you turn them. I've heard adages such as lefty loosey and righty tighty, but you know, whatever. I find them quite easy to use, and of course if you're in the field and you haven't got them done tight enough, all you do is give it another kink and it's as tight as anything. They tend not to wear out. I've had a number of tripods with the collars like these for 20 odd years. Still work perfectly. But if you can't get on with those, go for a lever. If you can't get on with a lever, go with the collars. But decide which one works best for you. Okay, so finally we come to look at tripod heads. I've got 4 heads here. They're all completely different. They all work in different ways. And they are very, very personal as to which you will choose. I'm going to start over here. This one is the traditional, to some extent, what's known as a pan and tilt head. You have 3 controls on it. This control allows you to turn the camera side to side. This control allows you to level the camera and to shoot in vertical format. And this control here allows you to tilt the camera up and down. They're individually set, they're individually locked. It does give an element of precision, so if you have everything level and you just want to tilt a little one way, you can do that. But you've got 3 knobs to control. Some people love them, some people don't. Let's come to the next. This is a ball and socket head. Ball and socket heads vary in style, shape, size, weight. Effectively they all do the same thing. They've got one big clamp that clamps on this ball here. Now this particular head has got a separate panning control, so I can turn side to side with the head in a locked position. You can see on this one the ball itself is quite large, and that gives you greater stability. The smaller the ball, the less stable it may be, but the lighter it will be as well. Just unlocking the single locking ring allows you to move side to side, up and down, and tilt to different angles. To shoot vertically, you can slip it off to the side there and lock it. With a good quality ball and socket head, when it's locked, it's really locked and is very, very stable indeed. But it's only one control, and if you're all level but just want to tilt the camera down a bit, you loosen that and you can lose your level as you tilt up and down. But they're quite fast to use. Coming over one more, we get to this little monstrosity. This is a geared head. I love geared heads, but they come with a downside. In this case, it's weight. It's a heavy piece of kit, but everything is so precise. In some ways, it's very similar to the first head we looked at, the pan and tilt head, because you have 3 controls. This control here controls the leveling angle, and you can see you've got a very fine-tuned knob there. We also have a larger knob there for large movements. The same with side to side, and the same with up and down. They are incredibly precise. They're very much favoured by a lot of landscape photographers. 2 disadvantages. One is price, very often. The other is weight. You can get a lighter one, but the lighter ones tend to be more expensive. Finally, we'll look at this head. This is known as a video head, and that's really what it's good for. There is no way of turning the camera to vertical unless you turn everything sideways and then put the camera on that way. Forget it, not going to work. Really doesn't work. If you do video work, the video head is lovely. If you do photography as opposed to video, they have very, very limited applications. However, they're not entirely useless, because if you're photographing with a long lens that's got its own separate foot, for let's say nature photography, it can be extremely good for that. It's a viable alternative to a gimbal head, which I'm not including within this demonstration of heads, at quite a reasonable price quite often. So there are your 4 heads. Pan and tilt, 3 knobs, adjust each of the movements individually. Geared head, 3 knobs, again adjust each movement individually but with huge precision. Ball and socket, 1 knob, kind of does it all, very stable. And the video head, a little bit specialist but worth mentioning, because I see so many people turning up with these on workshops thinking that they're right for normal everyday photography. If you put your camera on there, you're really struggling. So these 3 for general use has to be your choice. Okay, so we've looked at a whole range of tripods, we've looked at a whole range of heads. We've looked at aluminium, we've looked at carbon fibre, we've looked at 3 section, 4 section and 5 section. We've looked at how high they go, we've looked at how low they'll go. And we've looked at pan and tilt, geared and ball and socket heads. You kind of want a recommendation, I know, and I said I wouldn't give one, and I'm not. But what I am going to say is, as a general guideline, if you are happy to put a £500 lens on the front of your camera, put a £500 tripod and head underneath it. Whatever you think you're going to spend on a tripod, try and spend a bit more if you can. You buy cheap, you buy twice, and I've already said that before. Many years ago I had a lady come on one of my workshops and she bought an aluminium tripod that was too low for her. And I told her it was too low for her, but she still bought it. The following year she came on another workshop and she bought a taller one. I told her that the aluminium in that height was too heavy and she wouldn't use it, and she ought to go for the carbon fibre, but she was adamant. On the 3rd year she came on another workshop and she bought the carbon fibre version. Buy the right tripod first time and it'll save you having to stick a whole load of stuff on eBay. I hope you found this beneficial. Please do subscribe and I'll see you again soon.